Monday morning, or afternoon now, I guess, which means it's time for all the NHL insiders to go out onto their radio shows, podcasts, and others to start talking about stuff that they had heard over the weekend. And this is where we dive into a bunch of Elliotte Friedman comments, because Sportsnet's Golden Insider had gone out there and started talking the talk about a bunch of Vancouver Canucks-related things earlier this morning. So, without further ado, let's dive into some comments made by Friedman on Elias Pettersson. Let's talk about what he had to say about Brock Boeser, Conor Garland, and more, starting out with what he had said on 102.5 The Game. Now, 102.5 The Game is sports radio in Nashville, and Friedman said on the program that the Vancouver Canucks are not trading Elias Pettersson unless they're getting a good center back. Simple comment, I know. But it's one of these things where it's like, yeah, okay, duh. Of course, Vancouver's not trading away their only quote-unquote good center and getting no center in exchange. You're not trading away PD for Bowen Byram in a one-for-one swap like some pundits are going out there and saying the Canucks might do. You're probably getting a center in return. You can't rely on Teddy Blueger to be this Vancouver Canucks number one center. Blueger, Suter, Hedl, whomever it is, you need a top-line center that is not one of those three. And Suter isn't even guaranteed to be coming back anyway. So that, of course, throws a monkey wrench into that idea. I do kind of wonder what names the Vancouver Canucks would be interested in acquiring, because it's so obvious that if they were to trade Elias Pettersson, which I'm guessing it's not going to happen, we have until the end of the week pretty much to see this potentially go through, but part of the reason I'm so interested in that trade idea is because what exactly would the Canucks be thinking of getting? What names are out there that would actually make sense? And what names would actually improve the team? It's hard to trade Pettersson because you think that this guy has so much potential, etc., but he hasn't showed it off in over a year. So, do you trade for a guy who has a more guaranteed shot at being slightly better than Pettersson was last year, but who doesn't have the same upper ceiling as a PD? Or do you trade Pettersson away for a total swing, that in which I don't believe that kind of a player even exists on the trade market? Like, there isn't anybody else who has been in a bunch of trade rumors that has been as polarizing between the upper ceiling of what they're capable of and what they have shown off than Elias Pettersson. So you're going to have to trade Petey for somebody who is inferior to him whilst getting some extra assets. But then again, with all the talk from Frank Seravalli over the past few weeks about how teams are scared to trade for Elias Pettersson, I just don't really see it happening that way. So, for Friedman to clarify things and say, yeah, Canucks are not going to trade Pettersson unless they get a good center back, it's like, okay, of course that's the case here, but I think it's just too complicated to even try to hypothesize a possible move. So, yeah, PD's probably going to stay put. I think even Pierre LeBrun said that earlier a few weeks ago. Like, it's a lot more likely that PD just stays. And for all the haters and the naysayers in Vancouver, as justified as I think some of the dislike for Pettersson's game is, we all are Canucks fans at the end of the day, right? So we probably just should hope that this guy ends up becoming better. Anyways, let's talk about some other Elliotte Friedman notes, because he had an appearance on Donnie and Dolly earlier this morning that also sparked some interest in regards to the Vancouver Canucks. So, this is what Friedman said about Pius Suter. Speaking about centers in Van, the Canucks will take another run at Suter, but he may cost you $4.5 million a year. The Canucks like him. Vancouver has a decision to make. And this feeds into what we had talked about earlier in the week with Matt Duchene. He signed for $4.5 million a year. And I get it, Dallas, Texas, no state tax. Dallas is also a much better team than Vancouver, so Duchene had a bigger incentive to stay there. but Matt Duchene was a point-per-game 80-plus point player last year. And that guy signed for 4.5? You're telling me Pius Suter has to get the same dollar amount as him? Hell nah, dude. Pius might get something in the $4-something million range in free agency. We already spoke about how Duchene could have gotten up to $7 million on the open market. But because he had set that market a little bit further down, I do think it plays well into Vancouver's hands. And it gives them some more leverage saying, yeah, well, Pius, you want 4.5, Duchene got that. So we can't go that high. And if Suter is okay with staying in Vancouver for a little bit cheaper, then maybe it opens the door to some sort of a reunion. He's a good utility guy. He can play anywhere in the lineup, literally first-line center, second-line winger with Miller and Boeser. He can play on the power play. He can play bottom six. Suter is so versatile. Everything that you could ask out of him, he's capable of doing. And he was a bargain for Vancouver the past few years at sub $2 million a season. There is a chance for him to get his payday, but for $4.5 million, I don't know how comfortable I am paying him that money. But Friedman is saying, though, Vancouver circling back, we'll see whether or not that $4.5 million mark is acceptable for Alvin. Let's dive into some other tweets over here, too. Friedman says on Conor Garland, I believe the Canucks are taking a serious run at extending him. I mean, I don't know. Is it going to happen? It could. If they really want to keep Quinn Hughes around, they could re-sign all the players that Hughes likes. Garland definitely is in that boat. But I just don't know, because Conor Garland is going to be a third-line caliber guy making top 6 caliber money in this Canucks squad. You just know it's going to be like that. I mean, he's already making $4.9 million. He could get a little bit of a raise, to be honest, considering the way he had performed during this contract with Vancouver. Let's talk about some of the other contracts that are coming up as well, because Brock Boeser was also a subject of conversation from Friedman. He says here, I think Brock hits the market. Some teams will offer shorter term, some longer term. You hear teams like Ottawa, LA, San Jose, he will have opportunities. Friedman interview on Donnie and Dolly and YouTube. Now, this is not surprising either, but I do get intrigued about term. Friedman talking about some shorter term, some longer term. The term has always been an issue with Brock. He wants to go long. Vancouver offered him 5. He said, nah, I want longer. And Patrick Allvin was like, no, we can't do that. You're too slow already. At 28 years old, what more when you're going to be 34 or 35? So Brock getting whatever term it is that he could get on the market is going to be a point of contention here. These California teams being linked are so interesting because it's like, yeah, Brock's going to go over to LA. He's going to go over to San Jose. If San Jose gets to Foley and Brock Boeser long term, what are we doing here? It's going to be the freaking Vancouver crew doing their thing with the Sharks to Foley, Celebrini, Brock Boeser. You even had Kyle Burrows in there for a little bit. So I, for one, am very intrigued as to whether or not the Sens, the Sharks, or the Kings will give Brock that term that he is legitimately interested in. I question whether or not it's actually going to get to that point, but I guess we'll wait and see, right? So with all this in mind, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What are your thoughts on Friedman's commentary on Pettersson trading, Conor Garland and Suter signing, and Brock Boeser potentially going to some other team? Short term, long term, whose term? Let me know in the comment section all your opinions. I hope you enjoyed this quick little video. And bye.